So this meeting of the Berkshire Regional Planning Commission is now in session, Thursday, September 30th, 2021. This is a virtual meeting, which is allowed by Chapter 20 of the Acts of the 2021, suspending certain provisions of the open meeting law. This meeting is being recorded. The first item of business is a call to order. Sheila, could you do that for us?
All right, I will call out the names of the city or town, and would you then give me your name and whether you're a delegate or alternate, please? Adams.
You're muted, Michael. Michael is there, Sheila, but he's muted, so.
Okay.
And Duval, alternate.
Excellent, thank you. Alfred. Beckett. Cheshire.
Adams, am I unmuted now?
You're unmuted now, yes.
Okay, Michael Mack, Adams, Planning Board?
Thank you, and you're the delegate, right?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Clarksburg. Dalton.
Yep, Grant McGregor, new town planner in Dalton, and BRPC Brownfield delegate.
And what was your name? I'm sorry, I didn't hear you.
Grant McGregor.
Thank you. Egremont. Florida. Great Barrington.
I'm Malcolm Fick, alternate.
Hancock. Hinsdale. Lanesboro.
Barb Davis Hassan, Planning Board member, delegate.
Lee. Lennox. Monterey. Mount Washington.
Lovejoy, alternate.
Thank you. New Marlboro.
Mark Carson, Planning Board and Select Board delegate.
North Adams.
Kyle Hinland, delegate.
Thank you. Otis. Peru. Pittsfield, Irvin, delegate. Richmond. Sandusfield. Savoy. Sheffield.
Wood, alternate.
Thank you. Stockbridge.
Christine Rasmussen, alternate, selectman representative.
Thank you. Tyringham. Washington.
Don Gagnon, Planning Board delegate.
Thank you. West Stockbridge. Williamstown.
Roger Bolton, alternate.
Okay. And Windsor.
Doug McNally, Select Board Chair, Planning Board Chair, delegate.
Thank you. That's all.
And Sheila, a couple of more folks have entered. Pete Traub from Cheshire.
Okay, great. Thank you.
And if I'm not too late, this is Lucinda Vermeulen, Vice Chair of the Egremont Select Board.
Thank you.
And I think there was someone else who just entered fairly late. Jim Sullivan, are you there? From Hinsdale?
I'm here.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Sheila. Next on the agenda is approval of minutes of the July 8th, 2021 meeting.
Renee Wood Sheffield, so moved.
We have a
Kyle
motion,
Hanlon, second.
and we have a second. Any discussion or any updates anyone would like to discuss? Okay, this is a roll call vote, so I'm going to call out your names, and if I miss anyone the first time through, make sure I'll add them the next time. Well, we'll still get your vote. Michael Mack.
Here.
So, Mike, you want to vote on this, on the minutes, okay?
I got to abstain, I think.
Okay, Michael Mack abstains. That's okay. Peter Traub,
Yes.
Malcolm Pick,
Unmute, yes.
okay. Jim Sullivan,
Abstain.
Barbara Davis Hassan,
He's muted.
Sorry. Barb Hassan abstained.
thank you. James Lovejoy,
Abstain.
Mark Carson,
Abstain.
Kyle Hanlon,
Approve.
Sheila Irvin,
Yes.
Renee Wood,
Yes.
Christine Rasmussen,
Abstain.
okay. Don Gagnon,
Yes.
Roger Bolton,
Aye.
and Doug McNally.
Aye.
Did I miss any delegates or alternates? Okay, thank you. Next, we have comments from the public. Is there anyone from the public who would like to discuss any item that is currently not on this evening's agenda? Hearing none. Next is delegate and alternate issues. Any delegate or alternate have anything they would like to discuss? Again, that's not on the agenda. Okay.
Mr. Chair,
Yes.
Mr. Chair, I would just like to note that Al Blake joined the meeting by phone, but the alternate from Beckett.
Beckett. Thank you. Executive committee actions. As part of your packet, the executive committee actions that we approved on July 8th, 2021 and September 2nd, 2021 are presented for discussion. So they're in your packet. Hopefully everyone reviewed them. Are there any questions or concerns in regards to the actions that were taken by the executive committee?
I'll make a motion to approve.
Renee Wood second.
Yeah, this does
Sheffield
not
will second.
this does not require a motion.
Oh, okay, it's just review.
It's for information only. Yeah.
Thank you, sir.
Right. Okay, thank you. Next is the appointment to the Berkshire County Regional Housing Authority Board of Commissioners. And again, in your packet, there was a letter to Tom from that authority indicating that their board chair passed away unexpectedly, Richard Gulian. Hopefully I said that right. So they are requesting that the BRPC Commission vote to approve to add. I'll go back to the page. It's Jay Sacchetti, who is a resident of Pittsfield, Mass, to an initial term of 1 year to the volunteer board of commissioners. And please include that in your motion. We do need to take a vote for the appointment of Jay Sacchetti to the BCRHA. What is the board's pleasure?
Renee Wood Sheffield moved to approve as so stated.
We have a motion. We have a second.
Irvin, second.
Okay. Any discussion? Hearing none?
Through the chair, may I ask a question through the chair?
Sure can.
Does, when you do appointments of this kind, only because I'm unfamiliar with the process, is there a committee or a human services resources company that does any vetting as far as qualifications of the party? Is this a paid position or is this a volunteer position? It's just because I'm unaware of the process.
That's a good question. Tom, can you respond, please?
Yeah, I mean, I think what we did in this instance was let the Berkshire County Regional Housing Authority vet the candidate. I mean, this is their recommendation, and in many ways, this is coming about. This is a little bit unusual because they needed a county-wide organization to make the appointment, and with the dissolution of county government, we're the only one that's left. So this is kind of a default position, but it seems they're able to do this through their bylaws. So this is their recommendation. I mean, Jay Sacchetti is very well qualified. I've worked with him on a number of issues, and he certainly is eminently qualified for this position.
This is Doug McNally from Windsor. I would weigh in also that I've worked with Jay through the years, and he's highly qualified.
Very good. Thank you.
You're welcome. Okay, thank you, Tom.
If I may interject before the roll call, just for the clerk and the chair, Shirley Mueller has joined us from Alford, the alternate. Welcome, Shirley.
Thank you.
Okay, great. Thank you. Okay, so we have a motion on the floor. Any further discussion?
Just a clarification. This is Al Blake. There was a question about whether it was a paid position, and I don't think that was answered.
No, it was not.
No, it wasn't answered. I'm sorry. I didn't answer that. And I do not believe it is a paid position. I do not know 100% certain for that. I mean, it certainly wouldn't be paid for by BRPC. I don't believe so.
Thank you.
Okay, any more questions? Hearing none, we'll move on to a roll call vote. Mike Mack.
Aye.
Shirley Mueller.
Aye.
Okay. Alvin Blake.
Aye.
Peter Traub.
Yes.
Malcolm Fick.
Yes.
Jim Sullivan.
Aye.
Barbara Davis Hassan.
Barb Hassan, aye.
I gotta get that right. Barb, sorry about that.
It takes time, don't worry.
I get 3 chances. James Lovejoy.
Aye.
Mark Carson.
Aye.
Kyle Hanlon.
Aye.
Sheila Irvin.
Aye.
Renee Wood.
Aye.
Christine Rasmussen.
Aye.
Don Gagnon.
Aye.
Roger Bolton.
You're muted, Roger.
Aye. Sorry.
Roger, thank you. And Doug McNally.
Aye.
Did I miss anyone? Okay, thanks. Next on the agenda is to ratify committee members. The BRPC bylaws, as states here, require the commission to ratify members to various committees. And in your packet, there is a list provided of all of our committees, the chair, and the names of the individuals on those committees. Tom, did you want to add anything to this?
No, I think, we went through this in July, but since July, we had a few more members joining. So this is really just to ratify those new ones who's joined. I mean, the chair makes the appointment, but the commission needs to ratify those appointments. It's pretty much a pro forma. There are, if there's still some interest in people participating on some of these other committees, they should let me know, and we can, we're always open to new blood.
Okay. Any
Wood
questions
Sheffield,
from?
move to approve.
We have a motion to approve.
Jim Sullivan, Hinsdale, second.
And the second. Any questions? Okay, this is again a roll call vote. Mike Mack,
Aye.
Shirley Muller, I think it's Muller.
It's Mueller, but it's okay.
Mueller. I had it right the first two times. Alvin Blake,
Aye.
Peter Traub,
Aye.
Malcolm Fick,
Aye.
Jim Sullivan,
Aye.
Barb Davis Hassett,
Aye.
Jim Lovejoy,
Aye.
Mark Carson,
Aye.
Kyle Hanlon,
Aye.
Sheila Irvin,
Aye.
Renee Wood,
Aye.
Christine Rasmussen,
Aye.
Don Gagnon,
Aye.
Roger Bolton,
Aye.
and Doug McNally.
Aye.
Okay.
Mr. Chair, if I might add a comment here on one of the appointments, commission representatives to related groups, and this is a little bit of a follow-up to the question that Barb had earlier, committee members. There's an item later on in the meeting in my executive director's report about the Stone Arch bridges, along the Westfield River, and this is something that Marie Raftery, who we appointed earlier, had brought to my attention. So periodically she does report back, and I do like to bring those reports forward.
Okay, thank you. So we've gotten through all of the required approvals. Appreciate your patience. Now we have, next is preparing for the future of work in the Commonwealth of Massachusetts, report presentation. Tom, I'll hand that over to you.
Yeah, so I think we all know that COVID and the resulting economic changes has really impacted the way we have been doing business over this last year, but also I think more importantly, the more permanent changes that are facing the world and our country and our county. And the administration did a pretty thorough job in trying to anticipate what some of those changes might be. And we thought it would be interesting to get a briefing on that report. And I think it's also especially important to get some background because our featured speaker at our annual meeting, Ashley Stolba, is with the Executive Office of Housing and Economic Development, and I think this could be a nice segue into what the administration is going to try to do about some of these things. So I think we can look at this as maybe a background and an intro. And with that, I'd like to introduce Wiley Goodman, who is a senior planner, economic development planner with BRPC, who has really been looking into this closely. So take it away, Wiley.
Hi, everyone. Thank you so much. I'm going to stop my video.
Mm-hmm.
Can everyone see the report?
Yes.
Great.
Yes.
So as Tom mentioned, I'm going to be presenting on this report that was released in July 2021. again, preparing for the future of work in the Commonwealth of Massachusetts. So as the name implies, the report examines how COVID-19 changed the nature of work in the Commonwealth and what this means for the future workforce and housing needs in across the Commonwealth based on regional variations. The report was conducted by McKinsey & Company and involved data analyses, discussions with business leaders, resident and business surveys, and expert interviews. The report looks at both near and long-term outcomes. So Berkshire County is home to 4 different regional economy typologies, with rural economies predominating. 23 towns in Berkshire County are considered rural economies from the report's perspective. Economically, the report finds that these regions will, quote, likely experience the lowest employment growth, lower than the state average, and reskilling workers could play a critical role in developing these economies. 8 towns meet the definition of rural tourism-based economies. Those towns are Williamstown, North Adams, Cheshire, Sheffield, Great Barrington, Stockbridge, and Lee. These towns, the region finds, have experienced high levels of in-migration during COVID, albeit temporary, possibly, and driven by the pandemic. The authors hypothesized that increased adoption of remote and hybrid work could spur population growth in these regions, attracting remote hybrid workers from the Boston metropolitan area, which could boost spending and economic activity, but also put additional strains on housing and childcare affordability. 2 towns are considered suburban non-Boston. Those towns are Dalton and Lenox. The report finds that suburban non-Boston regions will likely see subdued growth due to a smaller concentration of workers in sectors that are growing. And finally, we have one gateway city, and that's Pittsfield. Gateway cities may experience the same future of work trends as Boston, Cambridge, but on a much smaller scale. In gateway cities, the economic focus will need to be on reskilling workers again, with an eye towards technology access and literacy. So with that as background, the report hypothesizes 3 potential workforce outcomes from the pandemic. The first posits a return to normal, with people working a 5-day work schedule in an office just like they did before, with minimal automation. The second outcome assumes that the COVID-19 trajectory continues, with remote or hybrid working increasing and e-commerce and automation of work ramping up. Finally, in the third scenario, the authors envision major post-COVID induced shifts in which work and workers are increasingly remote, with rapid automation across industries. So that means work done by machines and robots. As you can see from the graphic, the scenarios show a steady rise from 32% of workers being able to do their work remotely to 100% across the Commonwealth. So to prepare for these changed work scenarios, the report argues that 4 key shifts are needed, informed by 8 underlying insights. These include acknowledging this shift in work away from the urban core, focusing on reskilling workers, and recognizing that slower crop population growth will mean that we need to plan in a different way for future workforce needs. Focusing on our most vulnerable workers. These are workers who are low income, low skilled, women, and BIPOC, that's people of color, workers who face the greatest threat of job losses. And reducing the high housing and cost of living and doing business expenses in Massachusetts that could lead workers and employers to relocate elsewhere. Some of the key shifts that happened in Massachusetts during COVID are highlighted on this screen. So again, there was an increased need we saw for accessible, flexible childcare closer to home. Again, a quicker need to reskill workers and a larger breadth of those workers. Again, an increase in inequities. At the same time that we saw a decrease in the need for office space, public transit, and business travel, a decrease in international immigration, and a decrease in affordable housing, even as workers moved farther from work. We next conducted, using the report's findings, a broad-based SWOT analysis, strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats of what these future workforce trends could mean for Berkshire County specifically. First, we looked at our strengths. And here we see that a number of priority industries in Berkshire County, those are the ones highlighted in red, have strong future demand potential, including the ability for work to be done remotely, particularly in healthcare and social assistance. These are occupations that the report estimates 32% of people could do remotely. We also see that careers in the arts, entertainment, and recreation will be in demand. However, only 24% of those workers can work remotely. Another priority industry, advanced manufacturing, is expected to see an increase in demand, about 4%, but with only 25% of workers able to work remotely. However, not highlighted in red, if you notice it, the fourth item on that spreadsheet is professional, scientific, and technical services careers. So these are careers that are expected to gain by about 23%, with 55% of workers predicted to be able to work remotely. And that sector is expected to add about 210 to 230,000 jobs by 2030. In Berkshire County, this may mean that we want to do more to prepare young people and transitioning workers for employment in these professions, not currently identified as a priority industry. Examples of jobs in that sector, according to the Bureau of Labor Statistics, include legal advice and representation, accounting, bookkeeping, payroll, architectural, engineering and design, computer services, consulting, research, advertising, translation, veterinary services, and similar. Now, this looks at our weaknesses. So we are projected to see small decreases in demand in some of our other priority industries, most notably accommodation and food services, which is adjacent to hospitality and tourism, culinary, and food and agriculture. We should also be concerned about the projected reduction in retail trade, given the many small downtowns and main streets in our region. Accommodation and food services is projected to see a 3% decline in demand, with only 9% of workers able to work remotely. In agriculture, demand will be down 8%, with 8% of workers able to work remotely. And as examples of impacts already being felt, as of April 2021, rural tourism-based economies had some of the highest unemployment rates in the Commonwealth, for example, 6.4% in Stockbridge. So automation in the service sector could raise unemployment further still in future years. Now, one of Berkshire County's greatest opportunities is the nearly 40% rise in in-migration that happened during COVID, particularly in the southern part of the county. Now, it's also true that those coming to live here tended to be wealthier with incomes greater than $100,000 and older, while young people are still choosing Boston and urban areas for permanent residence. In terms of future work, however, the rising demand for healthcare workers due to an aging population and the region's high concentration of retirees could be a boon for the healthcare and social assistance sectors. We also hypothesize that while some migration is temporary, driven by the pandemic, increased adoption of remote and hybrid work could spur population growth if Berkshire County can attract remote workers on a permanent basis. This could then, again, as we've already mentioned, boost spending and economic activity, particularly in those rural tourism-based economies. But again, we need to take into consideration pressures on housing and childcare. Finally, as a parallel to the above, we see the threats, and that includes slowing population growth, which remains the greatest threat to those 23 rural towns in Berkshire County. And for the rural tourism-based economies and the others, the suburban non-Boston and the gateway cities, the other threats are the accelerated pace required to reskill workers equity challenges, and housing capacity and constraints. In closing, Berkshire County's town leaders will need to think creatively and strategically about what they can do to induce people to move here for remote work, while ensuring they have a diverse mix of affordable and high-quality housing, high-quality childcare and schools, as well as amenities to attract young families. We know here in Berkshire County, we have the arts, we have culture, we have nature, we have food, and we have outdoor recreation. What we need to show now is that we are more than a location for vacation, but that we are a destination worthy of calling home. Thank you, and if you have any questions.
This is Doug McNally from Windsor. I was astounded at the classification of Lenox as suburban and not involved in the entertainment with all of that happens there. Is there any explanation of that?
On the second slide, let me see if I can go back to it, how they define rural, the suburban non-Boston. I would have to look in the report a little bit more, but I think that there's more of a diverse economy probably in Lenox. So obviously we know that tourism is a large part of your economic base, but my guess is that there's also a diversity of workers in other sectors. Again, some of those might be second homeowners and other people, but working remotely that leads to that characterization as well as population size.
I would point out that if you add up the numbers in those categories, they come out to be more than 32. So somebody must be some jurisdiction must be double counted or something. I think they add up to 34. Am I right? I'd have to look at it again.
I can look at it again and double check those numbers.
I would just make one other comment. I mentioned this at a previous meeting, I think, of some part of this organization, I'm not sure what. And that's the implications for public transit. And I would very much hope that the speculation that the demand for public transit might fall wouldn't be interpreted as implying less funding for public transit here, because we're in a different situation. In fact, if we are to flourish, we actually probably need more public transit. If we are to attract new population, we should have more public transit, because our public transit resources are really very, very weak. And even if we attract younger working families, the primary income earner may commute by car, that's no problem, but there are other people in the family, like partners and spouses, kids, teenagers who, especially if the income level is not really super high, don't have access to a car. So I think they have to be careful. And I remember that the report itself actually said that this prediction for lower demand for public transit would be primarily in rail transit. So I think that's a little nuance that concerns me. Thank you.
This is Doug from Windsor. Sheila and I are also on the BRTA board, and I couldn't agree more, Roger.
Yeah.
I think the reduced need for transit is kind of Boston-centric thinking again. Basically, what they're talking about is less commuting from the ring around Boston or Worcester or something into the city center, and that's not the model that Berkshire County is dealing with. And I think, though, that what we're all thinking about, and I know that Bob is thinking about with BRTA, is that we may have to rethink the model, how we do it. We may need more public transportation, but it may not look like all fixed route stuff.
I think I agree with that. In particular, I think we don't need as many large buses or even the medium-sized buses that I see, at least in my town, going around with almost nobody in them. I actually look carefully each time one whizzes by, and I'm hard pressed to find anyone sitting in a seat other than the driver.
One of the things that Berkshire County needs is some form of affordable on-demand, and that's what we have to get to.
Doug, I guess I have a question for you. In terms of BRTA's ridership numbers, are they available, and do they quantify change in use one way or the other over this last, what is it now, 18 months, I guess?
Absolutely, they're all public documents, and Sheila is the chair, not the vice chair. But yeah, we examine them on a regular basis, and BRTA took a hit with COVID. It's rebounding now, but I shared with Bob a model for a county similar to Berkshire County in western North Carolina that has a lot of small towns and need for on demand, and they have set up a model where there is shared ridership on smaller vans with 24-hour notice. Anybody 65 and over rides for free, and I think we need to look at models like that rather than not in place entirely of fixed route larger buses. But the problem we have is a lot of people can't use the fixed route because they can't get from the last stop on the fixed route to home.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that's been a problem here forever. I mean, in the sense of, and that's one that I think, BRTA is struggling with. How do you do that? And having to go the distance it goes for fixed routes and then try to get people off of the main artery into where they really need to be. Done a little bit of it with getting people to their jobs, but there just needs to be more flexibility in those kinds of ways.
The good news is there's new software available that makes it possible for us to implement a model like this in Berkshire County. We need to dig deeper and see if we can, Bob's been great. We've already experimented with some night routes and everything, and they're working out well. But it's again, we pretty much have implemented an urban transit model on a suburban county, and it doesn't really meet our needs.
Could I change the conversation off of transportation and point out two things? One thing that didn't get a comment of concern, I think, is the -3% in government. That should be a huge concern to us. Many of us are elected government officials, and right now most people are not coming into government careers. And if we're going to see -3% as per the charts, and we're trying to grow and do more with our various size town governments, I think we're going to have to rethink this, what we're doing, just like we're having to rethink the model for transportation. And the second thing, I loved this presentation, Wiley, but I don't hear what I hear every day. I can't hire people. I can't find the people. And this almost presentation assumes that the people are there. And I spoke this afternoon with an electrician who, if he could hire 5 new people today, he would do it. And I'm just wondering, where is the absence of workers, let alone trained workers, in this report?
I think that certainly speaks to the need for reskilling. And I think we're not completely out of COVID yet, and workers are doing a lot of self-examination, a lot of really deep existential thinking about the nature of work and the kind of work that they want to do. So what's not discussed in the report that I think actually could be a really deep vein of conversation is, how do we make work more meaningful for people? It's not just a paycheck anymore. It's not just a way to pay the bills. I think COVID has really forced people to look at what kind of work they want to do that will make a difference in the world, that will make them feel good about themselves. And until we bring a more holistic approach to how we engage people around work, whether that's, again, allowing them working from home so they can be closer to their children, having flexible schedules so they can exercise or take care of their health needs as well and mental health needs. Those are ways that we will, I think, employers are going to also need to be rethinking about how to bring a workforce back that is going to stay.
Well, I would recommend respectfully that the people who put out this report find a way to put that in an addendum, because without that issue of how do we attract people back, how reskilling means a person has to be willing to re-enter the workforce. And right now, there's tons of people, whatever they're doing, are not interested. So I would strongly recommend that somehow this concept of what you just said so eloquently gets put somewhere in here, even if it's an addendum.
This is Doug on that. One of the things that One Berkshire's has put out and that we as regional planning have looked at is the out-migration of youth. Mm-hmm. And this report says about the youth preference to move to urban centers, not to rural areas. One of our major problems is that we have vocational programs at Taconic and McCann, and often we create these people who could fill vacancies in vastly, high need areas. They get their credential and leave. So one of the things we really have to focus on is convincing 20-somethings that it's worth living here. Because if you look at the demographic shift, we have this huge dip in the 21 to 35 demographic of age. We have all kinds of stuff through the Workforce Board for retraining, and we get great grants and stuff like that. But we don't have the young population to actually train. They're gone.
Well, I would also like to say, where are they going to live? I mean, part of the problem here is that the economy in South County, is basically based on construction. We're building, I'm involved in the construction industry, and, there's a tremendous amount of building going on. People can't find workers, but that's because they're working on $1 million plus homes. And the truth is that, even if you could find somebody to work and you could pay them reasonably well, they still probably couldn't afford to live here. There's a real, economic disincentive for young people to live around here because they can't find a place that's affordable to live, even if they could get a decent job. So, the positive nature of the fact that we have this, this growth in the construction in South County, and all of these people are coming up and buying and building houses. You can't find workers, but I would say that it's not as much, the idea that, well, people just don't want to work. It's just that, if you're working for $10 or $15 an hour, you certainly can't afford to live here. And even if you're working for $20 an hour, you're still trying to put together two incomes in order to get somebody who, in order to get a rental, to rent a house for a home for a family.
When was the last time there was a job fair in the Berkshires here?
We've had job fairs. The Workforce Board and One Berkshire have sponsored multiple job fairs. It happens. They're working directly with Heather's working directly with employers about their needs and advertising. They happen. The problem, is you can throw a fair, but if there's nobody in that demographic of post high school to age 40 living here, you don't have the audience. That's the big problem. The bodies aren't here.
So I'm interested, Wiley. What's the next step? Is the state going to be taking the lead in different geographic regions. Let's just pick Berkshire County to kind of try and help 32 municipalities figure out some of the best ways to proceed, or are we all on our own, or what's the next step? I mean, I think this is a really important report, but how do we make it into something that we can benefit from and learn from and advance?
Renee, I'd like to answer that, because I think your question is more appropriately addressed to our speaker at the annual meeting, Undersecretary Ashley Stolba, who is, what are their policies and what's the state's policies for addressing some of these concerns. I think you raise a very good point about, finding workers. I mean, what are their initiatives? How is the state going to use ARPA money to address these concerns? I mean, they have been doing listening sessions across the Commonwealth. There was a listening session so-called up in, North County last week. And I think I don't know, Wiley, I don't know who's going to have the answers for that right now. But I think we can ask Undersecretary Stolba about that.
Yeah, that's definitely above my pay grade, but I would say that hopefully it's a dialogue between people like you who really know your towns well and know what you need, being informed by this report to look ahead, and then being able to dialogue with, at the state level, with what are the funding sources and resources that you need to be able to serve your residents the best way and businesses the best way possible.
I guess I have a question for the delegates and alternates. I mean, is this report validated by your experience in your communities? I mean, are they on track? Are they off track? Or do they miss something? What are you experiencing that, is related to this or not? I mean, it said that there's an inflow of population in some communities. Are you noticing that? Is childcare, are you hearing from your residents, is childcare a serious problem? Those types of things.
Can I the chair? One profound thing that I didn't really see mentioned, and it's specifically related to COVID, is for our senior care. I found that there's a tremendous exodus of healthcare workers that work through COVID in the hospitals that have been burnt out, something terrible. And through my own personal efforts to try to hire CNAs and LPNs and such to help senior care, I found even going through the agencies, having them try to hire in the same price bracket that somebody had mentioned earlier, $16 to $20 an hour, you can't even get the services that you need. You talked about childcare, but what about our seniors that are at home and needing care for dementia and such like that? I got to tell you, we're in a crisis mode. For those of us that have, and I'm in my 60s, I've been, working this with a parent, and it is a nightmare. So, I mean, to fill that trend, especially if this report is regarding COVID, in the nursing care facilities, people that have left it because they were really in a bind. If you remember back in March when COVID basically shut everything down, everybody in those healthcare industries were shut in and locked in, and they were dealing with tremendous stresses because they were watching and they were the caregivers for other people's family members through some very, very hard times. So I found that wasn't really talked about much in the very comprehensive report that Wiley took care of to report on. Very good job, by the way. I really appreciate reading that report. So I'd like that to be talked about, is how do you fill that gap in an area that everybody's got a story that they can share within that area.
This is Doug again. I know I'm using a lot of airtime, but McCann Tech and BCC are running cohort after cohort after cohort of CNA training and LPN training, and we've been blessed in Berkshire County with repeated grants to fund it. Berkshire Health Systems has a program that says that any CNA working for them, they will pay for the tuition for them to pursue an LPN. So we have a pipeline, but you're right. The problem is burnout. It's not that we're not creating them, that it's just such a tough job in the COVID time. But the other issue that, again, speaking from my role on the workforce board, one of the biggest issues of getting people back to work is the lack of childcare. And the other component that has taken a real hit with COVID is the preschool programs, particularly the home-based preschool programs. The Pittsfield Public Schools decided to put preschool in every elementary school because they realized that their own teachers couldn't return to work because they couldn't get childcare. So the report is spot on the fact that one of the major reasons that people are not returning to work is lack of childcare.
And the cost of it. If you have two people working and you have to use one salary to pay for childcare, I think for a lot of people, it just stopped being reasonable. And I think one of the things COVID did was people stepped back and said, we're running around in a maze and what are we gaining for it? So I think, those costs, and the people who are doing the childcare aren't making enough money to sustain themselves either. So there is a vicious cycle there about costs and salaries that we really haven't dealt with.
Here's the model, Sheila. If both parents work, they're not eligible for state subsidies for childcare.
Mm-hmm.
If they don't work, they can get into Head Start. So if you go to work, you lose your childcare.
Right.
Talk about a broken model.
Absolutely.
There's more.
I think it will be.
Does not go work.
Excuse me, this is Mary McGurn, alternate from Egremont. I wanted to return to Tom's question, which I believe Tom was asking about how towns felt about the report. First time I've been exposed to the report, it was a very good report, very thought stimulating. Speaking for Egremont, and I also would like to note that on this call is one of our select board members, Lucinda Vermeulen. But Egremont has opportunities. Egremont is close to closing in on 100% coverage of 1 gigabyte fiber optic broadband, which goes to the issue of remote work and being able to, I think, attract the younger population. And we have seen a growth in our population in Egremont. The difficulty that I think, and we are addressing it, is affordable housing.
Mm-hmm.
I think if we can plug that, and we are moving forward on that, coupled with broadband, coupled with a rich endowment of natural resources and environment, Catamount nearby, we're going to have a complete redo of Route 23, which runs through our South Village, which will bring sidewalks and bicycle paths and lighting. I think Egremont is on the cusp of being able to take advantage of the change of work that will happen in the Commonwealth as well as happen in the rest of the country. And I do not know if Lucinda is still on the call and if she might want to add anything from the point of view of where Egremont sits at the moment and where it will be within a very short period of time.
Hi, it's Lucinda. I am here. That was a very nice commercial, Mary, for Egremont. Thank you.
Well, I think Egremont is worthy of that commercial.
Well, I totally agree with you, but I'm a bit prejudiced. I do want to say that what we, in the positive vein and reinforcing what Mary said, we definitely have an influx of younger families. They're not necessarily 20-somethings or even 30-somethings, but they're definitely 40-somethings with children, very active, educated, working people in white collar jobs, and they've really become a larger part of Egremont. So our demographic is definitely shifting. We have a lot of people over 65, even 60, even 55. But the demographic is shifting to a younger group of people who have left the city and have realized that they can still operate their lives, but in a much more serene, beautiful way than being in a city. And we're grateful for that, and we're certainly accenting that positive.
Mr. Chair, and thank you for that, Lucinda. Mr. Chair, I just want to point out the time, and we do have another meeting starting in 3 minutes. I think that you all should be able to stay in this meeting. It's the same link on Zoom, but we probably should wrap this one up, Mr. Chair, because we do have some guests coming in as well.
I agree, Tom. That was a very good discussion because a lot of what was said also impacts my community, the town of Adams. So I appreciate that. Executive Director's report, you good with that?
I think, yeah, it's pretty straightforward. I don't want to add anything right now. Let's take if we could, maybe a few minutes break. I know one of my staff said we needed to have at least a few minutes for a bathroom break in here between meetings. So
Understood. Could I have a motion to adjourn, please?
Renee Wood Sheffield, so moved.
Do we have a second?
Second, Kyle Hanlon.
All right. All those in favor say aye.
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 Motion approves. Let's take a break. Thank you. All right, good evening, everyone. My name is John Duvall. I am the chair of the Berkshire Regional Planning Commission, and welcome to this year's commission meeting, annual meeting, in combination with the Berkshire County Selectmen's Association. The current chair of that is Andy Holman from Williamstown. I've been a chair for about 2 months, and we have a precedence we have set. When a chair leaves the BRPC, we provide them with a ceremonial gavel. And Kyle Hanlon has been our chair for 5 to 6 years or so. He's done a fantastic job. And what we did was we have a very short video, and you may have to turn up your volume to be able to hear it. We did it out in front of the town hall at Adams, and there was traffic going by. So, Tom, could you please start that video of the changing of the guard, so to speak, between myself and Kyle?
I knew we were going to be low on the volume, but I didn't think we were going to be this low.
Yeah, I can't hear nothing.
Right? Yeah, it's.
It was a great speech, though.
Yeah, it was terrific. We're trying this new technology, this virtual technology, and I think we still have a few lessons to learn. But I think the end is really good when we get to see Kyle's smile.
So it was about a hour speech.
Meow.
So it should wrap up here pretty soon, but I just want to thank Kyle for his several years of service as chair. The way he runs the meetings is something that I'm going to aspire to be able to do the same. I'm really kind of a rules kind of guy, straight down the agenda as a chair of the Adams Board of Selectmen. But Kyle really going to the meetings when he was chair. Well, there we go. There's the exchange. We 6 feet apart. And there you go. Okay. So again, thank you, Kyle, for your years of service as chair. On behalf of Tom and the executive committee and the BRPC, the commission, we appreciate all your years of service. And we're not losing Kyle. He is still part of the BRPC. He's one of our committee members, a chair, I believe. So Kyle's not leaving us. He's still around. So Kyle, you're here. Do you have a couple words you'd like to say? Or
Oh, just thank you for the kind words, John. I enjoyed every minute and every meeting. I met a lot of great people and enjoyed my time.
Right. Thank you. Like I mentioned before, that we last year we did not have a meeting, unfortunately, and I'm glad this year we're able to do this virtually, and hopefully next year we can do it in person again, get back to doing that. But we joined the last few years with the Berkshire County Selectmen's Association, and their representative is Andy Hoagland. So I'd like to introduce Andy, and he has a few words to say, and also to introduce our speaker for the evening.
Thank you, Mr. Duvall. Yes, thank you all for coming up. We, in maybe 45 minutes, we'll also be changing the gavel, but we don't have a film. We don't have a gavel. We might not have an election, depending on when people show up. So please no one ask for a quorum, because we may not actually even have one. My job at this point is just to introduce Ashley Stolba. I actually met Ashley in person last week when she was doing a tour of Adams, North Adams, and Williamstown, listening to store owners, restaurant owners about their problems. So we're delighted to have her back virtually. Next time, perhaps in person again. Ashley is the Undersecretary of Community Development in the Executive Office of Housing and Economic Development for the Baker-Polito administration. She works across the Commonwealth to foster economic opportunities for residents and communities across Massachusetts. Among her duties is management of the Community One Stop for Growth, which I think you've all heard of over the last few months, which is a single application portal and collaborative review process for community grant programs that are targeted in the Commonwealth. And she's also working to increase broadband and internet access to Mass residents, and that's a story which, like everybody on the phone knows, is still being told as we go by. Prior to that, she was chief of staff at Harvard Alston Land Company. She worked for the Massport Authority as deputy chief of staff and legal counsel and associate counsel of the Mass Association of Realtors, and was a policy analyst for the House Minority Leader, Brad Jones. She's from Mashpee, so wrong end of the state as far as we're concerned, but she's welcome to the Berkshires anytime. Got her BA from University of Miami and her doctorate in law from Suffolk University Law School. And she's here to tell us the administration's view on what needs to be done and what they're doing. So thank you, Ashley, for coming tonight.
Thank you so much. Before I begin, I have to say hello to my good old friend, Barb, who, and I can't see everybody on the screen, so I'm trying to see if I have any other old friends here. But Barb, it's very nice to see you.
Great to see you, Ashley. Very great.
What a fun trip down memory lane I just had when I saw your face pop up. So Barb and I worked closely when I was at the Realtor Association. So it's very nice.
And we miss you dearly.
Oh, that's so nice. Well, I'm back. I'm back in some form.
We're very proud and very gracious, and I know you do a fantastic job in your position now. Everybody here that doesn't know Ashley personally, we're in fantastic hands. So we're looking forward to your presentation.
That is so nice. That's so nice. It was unexpected to see you. So I'm sorry, I'm kind of going off the cuff here, but it was really nice to see you, Barb. So I will say I was also just the timing of this, and it's such a bummer this is virtual, because I was actually out in Worthington today. I was with the Lieutenant Governor, and I know it's not in the Berkshires, but I was with the Lieutenant Governor today making a broadband announcement and a celebration in Worthington because they successfully completed installations in Worthington. So we were very excited to be there, but I was thinking what a bummer it was that I had to drive all the way out there, drive all the way back, and here I am virtually presenting to you while you guys are all out there. So as Andy mentioned, we are just coming off of a small business tour. We went to 24 communities this summer. We were promoting our ARPA proposal, which I'll share with you in a moment, and also listening to small business owners and residents, hearing what their issues were, what their difficulties were, how we can help them. I'll tell you, even though I'm from the Cape, I heard the same issues on the Cape as I did in the Berkshires, and in the middle of the state, in Lowell and Salem, kind of everywhere we went, we heard really so many of the same issues. And feel free to chime in with any other issues that I'll mention, but housing costs, labor shortage were the two top things that we heard over and over and over again. But there's also a huge request for funding for tourism, which I'll talk a little bit about in the ARPA proposal. But I'd say those were the main themes of what we were hearing all around the state. So I will dive into this deck. Feel free to interrupt me. I'm easy, so ask questions as we go. However you'd like to do this, but I'm happy to have a conversation and answer any questions that you have as I go through this. So let me see if I can figure out how to share. Can you all see that?
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Okay. Perfect. I have two screens, so if it doesn't look like I'm looking at you, I'm looking at the deck, but I promise I'm paying attention. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to walk you through primarily the portions of the governor's ARPA proposal that come out of housing and economic development, because that's where I work. But I will also provide some high-level highlights of other parts of his proposal. So just to bring us all back, federal government announced the American Rescue Plan Act many months ago, allocating $5.3 billion in discretionary funding to the state. So this is in addition to all of the money that towns are getting. So there's a ton. Is that my computer or somebody else's?
Yeah, I don't know.
I don't think it's mine. Okay. So there's a ton of federal money that's coming in to the state, but 5.3 has been allocated to the state of Massachusetts. So what the governor did is he filed a bill seeking to allocate $2.9 billion of that. So not the full amount, but really was eager to get going in spending the money. So this is the breakdown of how we were hoping to spend those funds. So as you'll see, the largest amount of this would be dedicated towards homeownership. We've dedicated $1 billion in homeownership, $900 million in infrastructure investments, which would primarily come out of EEA, so things like water and sewer, clean water, things like that. $350 million for downtown development, which I'll talk about a lot. $240 million for workforce development, $225 for healthcare, $100 million for tourism and cultural facilities, and $100 million for broadband access.
Holy smokes!
And with those questions for me. So we use this slide a lot. We talk about kind of what our plan pillars are when we talk about recovery. So we're going back to the first tranche of federal money that came in. We're using the same kind of approach as we did then, and really focusing on businesses, communities, workforce, and our housing crisis. So first I'll get into homeownership strategy. So we think the key to success for our residents is homeownership. And we know that a lot of people can't access homeownership right now due to a variety of reasons. So what we were hoping to do is to scale up existing programs that we already have. This would make it somewhat easier to spend the money right away, because we'd be using programs that we know work and people already love them. So we would hope to increase the spending for mass housing down payment assistance program and using $300 million for that. And then we'd also hope to scale up the Commonwealth Builder program. So right now we have $60 million in the Commonwealth Builder program, and we think $200 million would just be amazing if we could put more money into that. But again, this is really for home ownership, getting individuals to own their own homes, build their own equity, and not just rent. We are looking to scale up our rental programs as well. We seek to dedicate $200 million to support new units for rental. So we think with $200 million, we'd be able to add 2,400 new units to Massachusetts with that money. And then we also hope to use senior and veteran supportive housing. And this would be all across the state. And we think this could add 3,600 units if we were to use $300 million for that. I have a question for you, if you guys wouldn't mind telling me. What are you seeing as it relates to home ownership and the housing market? Maybe Barb, you can chime in. But what are you seeing right now? Do you find that homes are too expensive right now? Do you find that people can't find a house to buy? I am curious to hear what you're seeing.
Yeah,
Actually, this is Renee Wood from Sheffield.
Hi, Renee.
Hi, and thank you for the one stop. I love it.
I'm going to talk about that too.
We have so few homes for sale.
Right.
And no one who is a working person can afford them.
Yep.
We've been flooded by New Yorkers, nothing against them. But this program, while it's wonderful, I don't believe it's going to help anyone in our community. I hope I'm wrong.
Yep. Nope. I hope you're wrong too, but I don't. The problem seems so overwhelming right now.
This is Doug McNally from the town of Windsor.
Yep.
We're not in Egremont or South County. We're up north, and we're not quite as expensive. But basically what happened, for years we had houses on the market, but we built our own broadband network. And the minute broadband was available, every home that was on the market sold, and it sold above the asking price.
Wow.
And right now, the time on market in the town of Windsor is under 3 days.
Holy
and
cow.
The problem is that small towns like Windsor, where we have, a zoning because everything is well water and septic and so on, you can't get a home cheap. And you don't have, town water, town sewer, or anything like that, so you can't put in apartments.
Yeah.
So fundamentally, it's very hard. If a young person wants to work in Berkshire County and doesn't want to live with their parents, there's no place to live.
Yep.
Actually, another thing that happened was that yes, we're at crisis levels right now. I think we're at 2-month absorption rate. We were always at, in my area of central and northern Berkshire County, we always had about a 10 to 11 month inventory.
Yeah.
But one of the big things that happened was the rental market has been absorbed by the Airbnb market. And
I heard this when I was out in Lenox. Yep.
That's basically really hurt. It's hurting companies like General Dynamics that wants to hire engineers that are being paid at entry level over $100,000 a year, but there's nowhere to put them. And it's a crisis right now. Yep. Affordability is all but gone. I mean, I'm working with somebody looking for a house in the town I live in, and there's one house under $400,000, and that actually got sold today. So we like the gentleman that spoke about Windsor, we typically don't have, maybe 35 to 50 sales in a year, and well and septic again is an issue. So we've got major problems right now.
Yep. Now, and we're hearing this all across the state, and it's all the same exact issues. And water and sewer is a big piece of it, which, as some of you know, we do try to fund. We fund a lot of water and sewer issues with MassWorks, but we're really hoping to use some of the federal money for water and sewer infrastructure from EEA to try to help that too. But there's a ton of issues, and maybe we can, talk offline more about this. But I am very curious your ideas of how to make this, how we can help all across the state, because we're in crisis mode everywhere.
Right. Well, one other problem in the town of Mount Washington is that we don't have the staff to manage the Airbnb problem. People are, building, houses and, they're buying these homes and, putting in small apartments without permits. And then they're getting, they're renting them, as an Airbnb. But there doesn't, the state is supposed to be, helping us to manage this, but it's not, and it's just going on under the radar. It's like a black market. And that doesn't help to, to alleviate the housing problem.
No, you're right.
I would also like to add that we are in Stockbridge trying to be able to offer some affordable housing, but we have 4-acre zoning. And to touch that there's so much misinformation about what would happen if we adopt OSRD. There's a woman who every 2 weeks puts out articles against anything that will change the character of the town.
Right.
Meanwhile, the town is being built up by $1 million plus homes that are out of character with our town. But this information line is really a problem. And I think it needs to be for communities more than Stockbridge, because people are labeled here and then no one reads what the other person is saying. So I think if the state could help us with some real good education, it would be a big service.
Nope, that is very helpful. So, I don't do a ton of housing, despite the fact that I'm obsessed with it and I talk about it all the time in my job, but I have had the opportunity to kind of go around to a few different places with the governor and lieutenant governor and the secretary. And he said this, we did the housing choices bill for a reason, because we at the state level are saying we need more housing. We're finding the most difficulties are at the local level. And when it gets to a town vote, we don't get the amount of votes. So hopefully, we'll hope to see this soon, but by lowering the thresholds on these things, hopefully that'll help a little bit. But you're totally right that we're seeing these issues really at the local level, like in the Facebook chats and the groups and all that stuff of people kind of tearing down these projects. But I love your idea of more education. I think that would be a great supplement to what we're doing.
Can I also ask a question or make a comment? Is one of the things that I see a lot, and I admit as a newcomer here, so please everyone feel free to push back and disabuse me of this, is I see lots of abandoned I see lots of abandoned motels along major roadways that to me seem like real opportunities for multifamily housing. The zonings there, presumably the waters are infrastructure and a lot of the necessary elements are there. They just need to be, and owners need to be incentivized to turn them back over to towns to allow them to be developed in a new way.
Good idea.
Ashley, can I make a quick comment? I was just looking at the $200 million for the 2,400 new units and rentals. When was that dollar amount established? How many months ago?
So we introduced this proposal, I should know this, but I think it was early summer, I think June.
Okay. Just because housing costs are out of sight and we're all seeing sticker shock for the square footage price because of the construction. We in the town of Lanesboro saw a project go from like a 3,500 to 4,000 square foot police building go from 2 million last year to 4.3 million this year. So and I'm looking at the units that were projected out of this 200 million. Y'all put 2,400. I'm curious how big each of those rentals are and what the square footage equation is, because the cost per square foot is out of sight right now.
Not matching. I don't know the answer off the top of my head, but I think you raise a really good point. And I don't know how much of this would be subsidized by different sources, but I trust you, and I think you're probably right on that. Okay, so on to my favorite topic and how we can support our downtowns. So as mentioned, I manage the Community One Stop for Growth, which I'll get to in a second. But the goal here really isn't in the governor's proposal is to beef up the programs that we already have, right? So these are just a few of the programs that we use and we would hope to beef up. And the way that we would do this is spend $100 million dedicated to those downtowns that were most disproportionately impacted by COVID-19. But for those of you who know me, I feel very strongly about, supporting all of our Commonwealth. So we put $250 million for downtown recovery and revitalization all across the state. So I do want to show you this map. So I'm very proud of this map. So the Community One Stop for Growth, I think most of you probably know about it, is we consolidated 9 of our grant programs into one application portal. We did this in the spirit of efficiency, but also to help towns, primarily small towns, have access to our grant programs. We have so many grant programs. I'm consolidating 9. But what we did is we had people come in, they could fill what we call expression of interest. They could come in, tell us what they were up to, tell us what their ideas were, and then a whole team looked at those expressions of interest and kind of helped figure out and navigate, which grant programs would be best for them. So we're so excited about this. For this year, we had 360 applications, 579 distinct grant programs, which is unbelievable. And we had over $300 million of funding requests. Unfortunately, we only had $100 million in available funds to provide grants. We have $200 million worth of really, really good projects that we're just not going to be able to fund. In my dream world, we would have had ARPA money available to us back in June, and we would have been able to fund a lot of these projects now. But unfortunately, we don't have the money yet. So we are, for those of you who did apply through the One Stop this round, you should have gotten notice yesterday or the day before yesterday that we have almost concluded all of the reviews, and you should be receiving notice over the next couple of weeks as to whether or not your applications will be funded or not. But I'm super excited about the One Stop. We'll be launching soon already, which is hard to believe, for next year. But for those of you who participated, I'm very excited, and I do see a lot of blue towns over here in the Berkshires. But we saw a lot of really, really good projects. So I want to include this example of a town that really took advantage of a lot of different grant programs that we have. And that was the town of Amherst. And Amherst was one of the first stops that I made in my role here. But they took advantage of kind of everything, right? They use Commonwealth Places, they use travel and tourism, they use their LRRP, they use shared streets, which is another thing that I heard everywhere all summer. How much people love shared streets, and I do too. But what we were hoping to do is, if we have more ARPA money, and I sound like a broken record, we would help more towns do exactly what Amherst did, beef up existing programs, and help them do more cool stuff. But yay, Amherst. So continuing on with our proposal. So as I said, and as you all know, workforce is a huge problem right now, more than ever after COVID-19. So we are hoping to be able to plug in $240 million in workforce training. Again, same theme, use existing programs that we already have, but to really beef them up, focus on workforce credentials, teaching English as a second language, all these work readiness and essential skills programs. But really would love to focus on this. I mean, I'm not sure if you guys are seeing this too. I have a feeling that you are, but there's been a whole disruption in the workforce, and people are saying we can't hire, we can't find people to hire, but we know all these people are unemployed. So how do we get these people trained? How do we get them back to work? On to my second favorite topic is closing the digital divide. So I know you all are very, very familiar with the broadband program and the last mile efforts that we've launched through HED and MBI. So all of our 53 towns who are identified as last mile towns either have service or on the path to being fully set up. So the way we would anticipate using ARPA money for broadband internet is Our proposal is for $100 million, and this is how we kind of split it up. What we've learned from COVID-19 is that although people may have access to the internet, for a variety of reasons, they don't use it, right? They either don't know how, they don't have the proper devices, maybe their infrastructure isn't that good, or maybe there's, that 4% of a town or 2% of a town that doesn't have infrastructure set up. But we would love to be able to fund, use more money, specifically the ARPA money, through very strict guidelines on these programs. I know there's a lot of text on here, so I can go on. So tourism, same deal. I know I keep on saying this. Use existing programs that we already have in tourism and cultural assets. We have all these programs that people love. I think I included this slide, but these are some of our favorite programs. I think people have really taken advantage of, especially a lot of your communities. So the idea is to really beat this up. We want to do more cultural facilities. People have asked us a lot about the actual facilities, so we're hoping to be able to use money for that. And let me see what I have next. I think that's my last slide. So I'm happy to take any questions on ARPA, One Stop, or anything else that's on your mind.
Ashley, this is Andy. Thanks for doing this. I really appreciate the time.
Of course.
Just one point, which I'm sure the administration knows, is that there's a pretty wide variety of towns and cities throughout the state. And you've heard a few towns today talking about their problems. And, I dare say that some of the problems in Vermont are not the same as they are in Windsor and vice versa.
Yep.
And same here. So I guess I'd encourage the administration to always build in a lot of flexibility for these programs, because what a small town of 2,000 people needs is very different than what Chelsea and Everett need. And I want to make sure that there are funding programs that actually appeal to a lot of the small towns, because especially given where we are and among the 4 western counties, there's a lot of very small towns and they just can't take advantage of these programs. So the more the designers of these programs could keep those communities in mind, we appreciate that very much.
No, I appreciate you saying that. And something I know, I'm sure many of you know Peter Larkin, who is chair of the Mass Broadband Institute, and he was saying he said something today that, there's no one size fits all approach, right? There's no one size fits all approach when it comes to broadband. But I would say that for our programs too. So one thing I'll mention, and I think most of you know this, but so last year we, with the help of the legislature, set up the Small and Rural Town Development Fund. So it's similar to MassWorks, but it's in addition to MassWorks, and it's only focused on small and rural towns. And that's in addition to the STRAP, the small town road projects that we fund. So I really did make a big push, and I will continue to make a big push, that once we get this ARPA money, that fund be beefed up, because I think it's really important to have a dedicated fund to those small towns. And then if you think, Andy, there's any type of outreach or further engagement that we can do to help people apply for these grants, I think that's really important. I mean, that was really the goal. I mean, one of the goals of the One Stop is to make it more accessible. But I agree, it's just not all the grant programs are the same, and they're not good for everybody. And some of them are kind of challenging to access. But I'm happy to follow up with you or anyone else on this call, because we want people to use our programs.
And the One Stop is a great success. So, thanks. I'm sorry, Jim, go ahead.
That's okay. I just wanted to, as the smallest town in Berkshire County, 3rd smallest town in the Commonwealth, which has...
How many residents do you have?
160.
Oh, wow.
But we're in the 4th year of our fiber to the home broadband, which we're very grateful for.
Yeah.
What I wanted to, chime in on is that, the problem with the really small towns that have under 1,000 people is that we don't have staff, to manage these grants.
Yeah.
We don't have people who are skilled to apply for them, which is why things like Chapter 90 work really well for us, because it's just there for us to spend. And, obviously we have to spend it in ways that are appropriate, but at least we have some flexibility there, and we don't have to do a tremendous amount of paperwork and, trying to, apply for this grant and, do we qualify for that one? And is it, but no, maybe we really don't qualify for that one, but we could apply for this one. I mean, there's such a menu of grants. And, again, this is a small town. Everybody works as a volunteer pretty much. There's no facility to apply for these and to get this money, and yet we have 52% of the land in Mount Washington is owned by the state, and we have 3 state parks and state forests that people come to visit all the time. So, it's it is challenging to keep a budget going with the additional costs and everything that keep coming up in terms of our expenses. So, some way of being able to help small towns get these kinds of financial resources would be really appropriate. Thank you, Andy. I'm sorry to break in.
I'd like to jump in and just piggyback on what Jim said. This is Kent Liu. I'm the chair of the select board in the doppelganger town of Washington, Massachusetts. Has almost 500 people. Although we did see a big decrease in the latest census. We had the largest percentage decrease in our population in Berkshire County from the census that was just released. So that's not a proud milestone. But I was going to make a very similar point that applying for and getting the grants is one part of it. And obviously One Stop makes that much more straightforward to find them, to understand the application process. But the other part of the equation is to actually manage those projects, do all the reporting. And when the town itself is just trying to run through a series of volunteers, essentially, we do not have, except for a highway supervisor and 1 operator, we have no full-time staff. There is no staff to dedicate to this. So all of this extra support, although it's wonderful and we'd like to make use of it, we don't have the capacity, the management capacity. So if that can be considered for the programs that are targeted towards the smaller communities to build into it the degree of technical assistance, as well as connecting us up and accessing resources to do the planning and developing part as well, and not be thinking of it as soon as we give the money over, they've got the on-site staff and support to make use of it. So that's the other part, is to help us with the making use of, as well as the getting access to.
Yeah, nope. I'd like to add another point about very small towns. Not that I come from one, but I think everyone now recognizes that the pilot provisions are grossly inadequate, and that really adds to the problem of small towns because the tax revenue simply isn't there to support the kind of staff that we're talking about. And I understand some state agency or group is looking into that, and I would just like to emphasize that that's very important.
Since there's a gap, I'll also note, especially in response to Kent Liu's observation, I think it'd be nice if some of these programs would provide a resource which maybe could be shared regionally among different towns, because some towns can't afford a full-time person. They can't justify a full-time person, but 3 or 4 towns could. And I know other parts of the administration, maybe yours as well, have understood that promoting regional collaboration or multi-town collaborations is good. So like if you could work that in, that'd be nice. And the other issue is, I think having the influx of ARPA money is a great sort of short-term 2-year, 3-year solution. I think it'd be nice to have the administration look at the fundamental formulas. I mean, and again, not in your jurisdiction all the time, but school funding, transportation funding, Chapter 90 funding, water and sewer programs. The auditor is coming out with a report next week, which I'll get to in about 20 minutes, on infrastructure in all 4 Western counties. And they recommend a bunch of sort of structural changes to be looked at to see if there's a better way to have all the money flow to where the people need it and give them the skills and resources to be able to use it, per Kent and Jim's comments. So I think the short term, billions of dollars, that's wonderful. But over the long haul, there's been a need for, let's look at the math, look at the formulas and see if we can't do this better, because the rural towns throughout the state just get have a very difficult time keeping up. Thank you.
Yeah.
Andy, I can piggyback on your comment about regional use of volunteers to help with the grant writing. You know, there's hundreds of millions of dollars of infrastructure being offered, and many of us are in communities that don't have water and sewer. It would be nice that if somebody collectively that's involved in road construction projects, like from the Mass DOT, whenever they're going to be digging anybody's highways up, if they could talk to the water and sewer lines being connected and run through to the rural communities that don't have them, such as the party that talked in Windsor, such as Lanesboro. I mean, if they're going to tear up a road, it's already being torn up.
That's right.
Extend the sewer line on the mass highways. You know, pipe is relatively inexpensive. The labor's already there digging the holes. Bring the sewer and the water in areas that need it the most, and that'll take care of the tremendous housing problem, because housing is restricted, by bedrooms. And once you get the sewer and the water in, you're golden. And our community zoning, certainly can, where it's tight, where it's not 3 acre zoning or 2 acre zoning, you could certainly add a heck of a lot more housing. So I think it's a communication thing.
Yeah.
If you got somebody that really recognized that and said, if you guys are doing this project, look to the communities that it most affects, and then you guys can save money collectively, spending the hard-earned money, the tax dollar money, and make it effective.
No,
so
and
we're going to have to wrap up.
Yes, I know we're wrapping up.
I'm sorry, Ashley. We'll have to wrap up this discussion. I think we could go all night with each community. Tom, just one last thing. We talk regional. Is there a way the BRPC could get more involved in the area of ARPA funds or the distribution thereof to help the smaller communities? Everybody working together. I just thought that's a question that pretty much we don't have county government, but that's what we do.
Well, the short answer is yes, definitely. We'd love to work with communities to help with these, these projects. And we've got a number of different staff that are available, and some are already kind of, sideways working on these efforts. But yes.
Okay, I appreciate that, Ashley. Thank you so much. It was a great report. A lot of good discussion. Thank you for visiting our communities up here in Berkshire County. It's great to be you and the Lieutenant Governor and other officials from the state government. It was great to see that. We took part in it ourselves.
I know.
In Adams. It was great to see everyone up here. So thank you.
Thank you so much for having me. And we'll be in touch.
Ashley.
Take care. Thank you.
Bye.
Nice job, Ashley.
Oh, thank you, Barb. Nice to see you.
Talk soon.
Okay, bye.
Bye-bye.
All right. Next on the agenda, we have the Cusick Award. The Berkshire Regional Planning Commission inaugurated the Cusick Award in 1996. The annual award is named in honor of the late Charles Cusick, a resident of the town of Richmond, who for over 3 decades placed his expert imprint on the zoning bylaws of nearly every town in the Berkshires. He epitomized the term citizen planner. He spent countless evenings at planning board meetings, helping towns craft zoning packages that could get through town meetings. He was recognized nationally for his efforts, receiving an award as a citizen planner for the National Planning Professional Association. In the spirit of the award, Berkshire Regional Planning Commission is recognizing 2 groups this year that kept people safe and business afloat during the pandemic. The first is the Berkshire Vaccine Collaborative for their leadership to protect Berkshire County. The second, the COVID-19 Emergency Response Fund for Berkshire County for their leadership to protect Berkshire County from the economic impact of COVID-19. First, we'd like to recognize the Berkshire Vaccine Collaborative. The Berkshire Vaccine Collaborative was an informal partnership of many organizations and individuals to provide COVID-19 vaccines at 3 large mass vaccination clinics in the Berkshires. We're all familiar with those: North Adams, Pittsfield, and Great Barrington. Their goal was to get everyone vaccinated as quickly as possible, safely, effectively, and efficiently. They succeeded admirably with at least 90,000 vaccination shots provided in all 3 clinics, in clinics that ran from January 11th, 2021 through June 26th of this year. The primary members of the Berkshire Vaccine Collaborative are the Northern Berkshire Regional Emergency Planning Committee and Northern Berkshire EMS, Berkshire County Boards of Health Association, Berkshire County Public Health Nurses, Berkshire Health Systems, Community Health Programs, and Fairview Hospital. Accepting the award on behalf of the Vaccine Collaborative is AJ Giacino from the Northern Berkshire Regional Emergency Planning Committee and Northern Berkshire EMS. AJ, would you like to say a few words?
Hi. Oh, thank you. I'm not sure how I got picked for this, but I got the email last night that I'd be speaking. So just bear with me. I was been given 2 minutes, so I wrote a few things down. Thank you. I'm humbled to receive this award on behalf of the Berkshire Vaccine Collaborative, as I've been asked to say a few words. I want to begin by saying that in my many years of emergency management, I've never worked with such a great group of consummate professionals. Their commitment, passion, dedication, empathy, and drive to cure the world
Vaccine Collaborative won an award
from this little place in Massachusetts was and continues to be unmatched. I must also say that there are so many unknowns that occurred. This group has accomplished throughout Berkshire County related to COVID operations, vaccine clinics, COVID treatment and prevention, awareness, tracking, information collecting, and learning. I think Heather can vouch that, yes, we learned at a rate that was faster than most Ivy League university curriculums. In typical Berkshire County fashion, we recognized early that no one could do this alone. So BHS, CHP, NBEMS, NBR, EPC, Fairview Hospital, Berkshire County Public Health Nurses, and Boards of Health, and all their support networks, especially the 3 vaccination clinics, became a unified total solution for COVID in Berkshire County. Through love, laughter, tears, and sometimes even anger, we were all tested and prevailed. There's so much I could say, but I'll end with this. As I read about Mr. Kusick and his amazing work that impacted so many in Berkshire County, and in receiving this recognition, I hope you all feel motivated, encouraged, and supported to grow even more. Let it allow you to continue to be creative, out-of-the-box thinkers, to continue being dynamic planners. Let it allow for even broader public and private partnerships, and let's continue to move forward with no egos, resulting in a no borders approach to emergency management. Let's continue to be good regional neighbors, as we did during this COVID pandemic. I thank you on behalf of the entire collaborative, and as we are all honored to receive this recognition. Thank you.
Thank you, AJ. Just a note for everyone, if we did omit an organization, or if anyone has any additional comments, we'll have time in a few minutes after we complete the second part of this award. And now, Leah, and I'm hopefully don't be too bad on this last name, Spilotes, Chief Executive.
You're close.
Okay, thank you. Chief Executive Officer, Community Health Programs Incorporated, would like to say a few words. Leah?
Yes, so I think it was an amazing experience to have all of these organizations come together in a very trying and challenging time. I mean, we knew on the CHP front that a great contribution that we could make would be to mobilize our mobile health units to take the care out into the community. So we were able to do things on 2 fronts. One was we were able to get people to the 3 locations and make it easy for them and help them along. But we were also able to take the vaccines out. In the first 4 months that vaccines were available, we did about close to 5,000 vaccines on the mobile health unit. And we continue to do vaccines on the mobile health unit. And in a year from this month, we'll have a fleet of 3 mobile health units. And it's our hope that we can use what we have to complement all the other health agencies and healthcare providers in Berkshire County that work so hard together, and that we can do something to really supplement and aid them in delivering care. Because at the end of the day, the people that we care about, the people that are important to us, have very great needs in this community. And all of us are there to support them, and all of us are there to care for them. And as Martin Luther King said, we all came in different boats, but we're in the same boat. So thank you so much for honoring the Berkshire Vaccine Collaborative with this award.
Thank you, Leah. Now we would like to recognize the COVID-19 Emergency Response Fund for Berkshire County. The COVID-19 Emergency Response Fund was a collaboration of multiple agencies to assist nonprofit organizations to withstand the financial impact caused by the COVID-19 pandemic. From March 19th to August 3rd of 2020, the Emergency Fund awarded more than $2 million through 132 grants to 95 nonprofits supporting low-income families, communities of color and immigrants, and seniors through services such as food pantries, health care, and housing. COVID-19 Emergency Response Fund. It was instrumental in minimizing the potential disastrous impacts from the pandemic on the region's nonprofit organizations. The partners of the COVID-19 Relief Fund for Berkshire County are Williamstown Community Chest, Berkshire United Way, Berkshire Taconic Community Foundation, and the Northern Berkshire United Way. Accepting the award on behalf of the Relief Fund is Anna Singleton, Executive Director, Williamstown Community Chest. Anna?
Thank you. Actually, all four of us have something to quickly say, and I'm going to turn it right over to Krista Collier, who's first on our list.
Yeah, we have a whole plan. So good evening, everybody. It's wonderful to be around or near in this little bubble with all of you this evening, little boxes, I guess I should say. We first, on behalf of all of our partners, which you just named, we would like to thank all of you for this honor. We were really pleased to hear that we had been named the recipients of this along with the Berkshire Vaccine Collaborative, which a few of us have worked with as well. So we were thrilled to hear that. Hi, AJ. And so it really was quite the full 18 months, the past, just quite a really big endeavor the past year and a half. But as everybody has experienced, this past year was significant and unique. I don't think I have to say that to anybody. But we decided at the beginning of, on March 19th, as was mentioned, that we needed to come together and mobilize all our resources and put forth into action what we do best. We needed to provide, support our grantees, our community partners, and our member agencies and establish this fund and get it up and running. And by joining forces as the philanthropic organizations in Berkshire County, we really served as the bridge builders. We didn't initially know this at first, but we were really able to form partnerships. We were able to be instrumental in building trust within the communities we serve. And that really was a true strength of what we were able to establish and form together. If anything great came out of the pandemic, it was our strength together as a collaborative. And now, Anne.
Thank you. So on behalf of the Williamstown Community Chest, I'd like to add our gratitude for this recognition, and especially for the opportunity to work so closely with our partners. I'd like to highlight we'd like to highlight and acknowledge the members of the Berkshire Funders Roundtable who immediately recognized the need. Now, I think it's fair to say that no one, or almost no one, quite comprehended the magnitude or duration at the time. The Roundtable made the first substantial financial contributions to the emergency fund, and that encouraged people throughout Berkshire County and beyond to add their financial support. And the Roundtable's trust in our partnership meant that within days, it was actually less than a week, that the first grant applications, and those applications were just 3 questions long, those applications were submitted and reviewed, and resources were on their way to meet the needs that so quickly required attention. So thank you, and I will turn it over to Maeve.
Thank you, Anne. So yes, as Anne said, the grant-making process worked well for many reasons, particularly because we developed guidelines and an application process that was extremely streamlined. Simply a letter of request stating how much was being requested and how the funding would be used. And it worked largely because among the 4 of us, we knew the majority of nonprofits coming forward, and we knew that we could trust them to carry out the proposed projects using their expertise and in many areas relying on that extraordinary outpouring of volunteer support. We were able to review applications quickly, at least weekly in the height of the pandemic, often more often, and get funding out the door immediately. And we saw nonprofits coming together to address needs, and we certainly look forward to seeing more of that in the future. And now over to Brenda.
Well, I'm pleased that all four of our organizations are still part of many ongoing conversations, and we continue to keep the pulse on what's going on in our community, and so we understand that landscape, so we can react if we need to do so. We are so proud of all the nonprofits that endured the really difficult time. So we're very proud of them. Berkshire County is a special place, and it's very critical that the nonprofits were able to really, endure everything that they did. And I just want to cite one of the critical reasons is that 1 in 4 jobs in our community is in the nonprofit sector. So again, we're proud to be part of that, and I just want to reiterate the thanks that my team has given before me. We're really proud to receive this recognition. Thank you.
And thank you. Is there anyone else who would like to speak and say a few words in regards to these collaborations? Okay. I personally would like to, I agree Berkshire County is a special place. And when the pandemic came to our communities, I was just amazed. I'm a selectman, but I wasn't involved with the volunteering or things like that. But I was just amazed on how everything came together, and people, volunteered in the face of early on, in the face of no vaccines, and really put their lives on the line to help their neighbors and help their community. So we are a special place. I'm very proud of all of you, and we're prepared. And also the comment you made that we're ready to go again if needed. So it's a great place. Great county and a great place to live and to raise your family. So thank you so much for everything all of you have done. And to me, I consider you all heroes, because I sat back and I waited my turn and I got my vaccine like the majority of us did. But those of you that were out there volunteering are to me heroes. So thank you again. Okay. Tom, it is your turn. The BRPC Executive Director, Tom Matusko, has some program managers that have some projects they would like to review.
Well, thank you, John. And I also want to offer my thanks to the 2 award winners. It really was a very impressive effort on both fronts, actually. So again, echoing John's comments, thank you so much for your efforts. I'm going to try to keep my comments brief because we're going to try something in a few minutes that's a little bit different. Now, based on our first experience with the video, this may be very brief, but let's give it a shot. So for BRPC, there were 3 main areas that surfaced over this last year, and I think one of them is the public health response. Our staff supports the Berkshire Public Health Alliance, which was really instrumental, I think, in the response, both from the early on stages where we did a lot of contact tracing. We provided funding for supplies. We were the conduit for that. And then really helped coordinate the vaccine collaboratives that we were talking about, and were parts of those. So kudos to our public health staff for those efforts. And also another key area that we were also involved in some of the recovery activities as well. We administered several funds, one from the Attorney General's office and one from an earmark that we received from Senator Hines. And then recently we're still working with a couple of municipalities on the micro enterprise assistance programs. Now, these funds were a little bit more modest in scale than the nonprofits that were out there, but I still think that they were very instrumental. And in one of them, the adaptation fund, we did focus on the BIPOC community. But then a third theme or a third focus of our work that I want to highlight is that despite the pandemic and the challenges that it presented to us, we were still able to remain strong in our service delivery to communities. And I'm just going to highlight a few items. I mean, we still maintained a very strong effort related to climate change. We worked with communities to reduce greenhouse gas emissions, as well as to prepare for and adapt to the inevitable changing climate. We also increased our capacity for energy planning with the hiring of a dedicated energy planner. We heard a lot tonight about the housing crisis facing Berkshire County. And over this last year, partnering with One Berkshire, we've really been working with the housing practitioners from across the region. We're coming up with a strategic plan for housing to hopefully help Undersecretary Stolba spend her money on some of the needs that we have out here in Berkshire County. And then our addiction abuse program was strong. I think the pandemic did put a lot of stress on families and relationships, and we saw that with some of the increase in some of the addiction problems. I could cite more projects or work efforts, but I hope this video that we're going to show will detail that a little bit more. But I do want to recognize the BRPC staff who responded admirably to this crisis. I mean, many of them had to face many of the personal challenges of having children at school, at home, not being able to go to school, and manage both, child caring, teaching, and work. Many staff had to assume additional responsibilities from the pandemic in addition to their regular jobs. And then in the background, the overall anxiety that this pandemic caused us was really loomed in the background. And then logistically, we had to adapt to a whole new set of work practices, which as a whole, I think we responded admirably. And I would also like to recognize the outgoing chair, Kyle Hanlon, and the other executive committee members who really provided strong support to me as we navigated through this brand new territory. Every meeting we would come up with a different policy of changing, our work practices, buying laptops, or, trying to maintain the safety of our staff while trying to continue work. And the leadership of the commission was very instrumental, and I appreciate that. I think to sum up, we had a very busy and successful year in FY21 on many fronts, thanks to the hard work, commitment, and dedication of the staff and the strong support of the executive committee. And now we're going to try another video clip. So take it away, Kate. All right, let's move on. So as I just said, we had to adapt to a lot of different things over this last year. Technology and the wonderful challenges and opportunities that technology presents us. So we'll move on to the next item. And I guess I'm going to pass that over to you, Andy. Stop. Wait a minute.
Here we go.
With this part of tonight's events, I've asked the BRPC program managers to highlight a few of their activities over the last fiscal year. This is going to be a rapid-fire list, as I've asked them to keep their comments to no more than 90 seconds. For a complete list, check out our annual report. We'll start with Laura Kittredge, the Public Health Program Manager.
Good
evening. The public health program had several themes that ran through our work in fiscal 21 and continue to inform it in fiscal year 22. These themes are equity, data, strengthening the local public health system, and policy change. In all our work, from our public health emergency preparedness projects to the Great Green Project in the West Side and Morningside areas of Pittsfield, to the work of the Berkshire Overdose Addiction Collaborative, to our efforts as part of the Berkshire Vaccine Collaborative, we strive to ensure the structural inequities and disparities in our society that affect health are acknowledged and addressed. In addition, accurate, relevant data needs to inform our work at all levels. We've worked with the other 3 Western Mass counties to build out the Regional Opioid Data Collaborative, have done extensive data collection and analysis to make sure the information informing our community health improvement plan is relevant to our population, and are developing a local data collection program to inform our food protection and other health inspection work. The third theme is strengthening the local public health system. We regularly work with other local public health partners across the state legislators, and the Department of Public Health to implement the recommendations of the Special Commission on Local and Regional Health. On a local level, the Berkshire Public Health Alliance continues to offer public health nursing, inspectional services, and technical assistance to our 24-member communities. Finally, I'd be remiss not to mention the public health program's involvement in the COVID-19 response. For the past 18 months, we've provided information and technical assistance on state guidelines to our local boards of health, informed state policy through local advocacy and participation in state committees, distributed emergency funds, provided contact tracing and COVID case management to up to 22 municipalities at a time through our public health nursing program, and helped to provide almost 90,000 vaccines as part of the Berkshire Vaccine Collaborative.
I'm going to speak about the Environmental and Energy Planning Program, sitting in for Program Manager Melissa Provencher. This program focused on 4 main areas over the past year: energy planning, hazard mitigation and municipal vulnerability preparedness, stormwater mitigation, and brownfields. In FY21, we significantly increased our capacity to assist communities in meeting their clean energy and energy reduction goals through the hiring of a dedicated energy planner. We assisted 9 communities in working towards those goals established under the Green Communities designation, developed energy reduction plans for 3 communities, and assisted in their efforts to become designated as green communities. We assisted 5 communities to navigate through the process of securing energy audits for municipal buildings, and worked to assist 5 communities to advance municipal energy efficiency projects, including insulation, lighting, and energy efficiency heating systems in municipally owned buildings. Through our hazard mitigation and municipal vulnerability work, MVP, we have worked with 5 communities to develop hazard mitigation and MVP plans. Our planning work has led to MVP implementation projects, including culvert assessments in 4 communities, 30% designs for 3 new culverts, and beginning a process to better understand how forestry practices can be adapted for climate change, as well as support more resilient forests. Our stormwater mitigation work includes assisting 3 communities to fulfill federal stormwater requirements, and we have initiated a program offering services to all 32 communities to advance state and local water quality improvement goals. We continue to offer these services to our municipalities. Lastly, through the Brownfields program, we assisted 4 communities to conduct environmental assessments on 10 sites. We worked with 3 communities to initiate cleanup of 2 former dry cleaner sites and 1 municipally owned site contaminated by petroleum products. And through our revolving loan fund, we provided loan funds for the remediation of the Greylock Works site in North Adams. With that, I'll turn things over to Cleet Coos, Transportation Program Manager.
Over this past year, in addition to meeting our federal obligations, preparing and administering the TIP and the UPWP, transportation staff have been focusing their attention on a number of other activities, and tonight I want to highlight a few of them. The future of transportation is fleet electrification, otherwise known as electric vehicles. We have developed an electric vehicle and charging infrastructure plan. This is a resource for communities to gain a more in-depth understanding of the evolving technology, and it's our intent to continue to work and assist communities as they prepare for the influx of EVs and to ensure that adequate EV charging is available in Berkshire County. Staff has also been working on a bicycle and pedestrian planning effort in both North Adams and Pittsfield. We've completed a bicycle and pedestrian plan for downtown North Adams, and we partnered with the city in the preparation of the Berkshire Bike Share study. The North Adams plan sets direction for bicycle and pedestrian improvements, and these improvements will ultimately connect with the planned adventure trail, which extends from Williamstown Town Line to Massmoka. The regional bike share study paves the way for implementing a bike share program in the not too distant future. Staff has also been actively involved in the Transportation and Climate Initiative, referred to as TCI, and has worked with the Regional Issues Committee in efforts to advocate for the needs and interests of rural communities. Numerous comment letters have been prepared and submitted, and we will continue to follow this initiative to protect the best interests of our towns. And now I'm turning this over to Mark Malloy, the Data and Information Services Program Manager. Mark?
Thank you, Clayton. For fiscal year 21, the Data and Information Services Program focused on several items. The first was to start and update Berkshire benchmarks. We began developing regional indicators through extensive research and community outreach, working with over 100 community organizations and individuals throughout the county. These new indicators will allow the region to assess how it is doing over time and where to focus our efforts. Stay tuned for more news on this in fiscal year 22. In addition, online permitting grew, with 4 new towns starting to use the Board of Health online permitting program: Peru, Richmond, Washington, and Windsor, for a total of 9 communities. Also, 5 new communities began using the online burn permit program for open season burning: New Ashford, Tolland, Tyringham, Washington, and West Stockbridge, bringing that total up to 25 communities. Outdoor recreation was also a primary focus of the program. Our inventory of outdoor recreation facilities was greatly expanded, allowing us to further understand how outdoor recreation impacts our local communities and region. In addition, we continue to promote and grow outdoor recreation by convening stakeholders in semi-annual meetings. Finally, one of the most significant parts of this program is to provide GIS and data support to all of our programs, our municipalities, and community organizations. Now I will turn it over to Laura Brennan, Program Manager for the Economic Development Program.
Thank you, Mark. Economic Development became a distinct BRPC program this year, carrying forward some ongoing projects and adding some new ones. We continued to support Adams, Great Barrington, Lanesboro, Lenox, and Richmond with shared economic planner services, helping with everything from grant writing to event planning. The recent 10-day Art Week Berkshires was a highlight of these efforts, and in its first year as a countywide festival, included more than 110 events. New projects centered on pandemic impacts, such as the COVID-19 Adaptation Fund, which was made possible through an earmark from Senator Hines, and provided grants to about 40 small businesses. It was an honor to help administer this fund, which prioritized heavily impacted BIPOC-owned businesses. The state's Rapid Recovery Program has allowed us to help Adams, Great Barrington, North Adams, and Williamstown plan recovery projects for their downtown districts. Final plans will be published in early October. Our biggest project began in January and will extend into 2023. It focuses on building economic resilience throughout the county. We're fostering projects that will create jobs, providing technical assistance to businesses and municipalities, and looking long-term at how the region's industries and agencies can better respond to economic disruptions in the future. And now I'll turn things over to Pat Mullins, Program Manager for Community Development, Housing, and Regional Services.
Thank you, Laura, and hello, everyone. In the past year, the Community Development section at BRPC has assisted 7 communities through the Community Development Block Grant Program with housing rehabilitation services in the towns of Cheshire, Dalton, Beckett, Stockbridge, Sheffield, New Marlborough, and Otis. And we have accepted applications for over 100 individual homeowners and have completed 24 projects through CDBG Housing Rehab. Also at CDBG funds, we have assisted the town of Sheffield and the town of New Marlborough with ADA improvements on their municipal facilities by providing 100% bid-ready documents to go out to bid for construction. The CDBG-CV program, in response to the pandemic, has assisted individuals from all over Berkshire County with providing low to moderate income micro enterprise business owners with up to $25,000 grants to offset their losses during the pandemic. The community development section has also assisted the towns of Beckett and Stockbridge by performing ADA self-evaluation and transition plans, which will allow those communities to pursue further grant opportunities in the future for implementation projects to do improvements on ADA accessibility. The Berkshire Regional Group Purchasing Program under Regional Services has assisted 26 municipalities, issuing 18 bid packages for commonly used products and services, and that resulted in 27 vendor contracts and added several new services for FY22 to the list of offerings that we've made. And now I'd like to hand you over once again to Tom Matusko, BRPC Executive Director, who will bring you up to date on the community planning efforts at BRPC.
The community planning program focused on three main areas in FY21: comprehensive planning, zoning, and technical assistance in education. Regarding comprehensive planning, BRPC assisted the town of Washington prepare a town plan, a small-scale version of a master plan. We worked with a committee to finish the master plan for the town of Lenox, initiated both master plans and open space and recreation plans for West Stockbridge, and assisted Dalton finalizing an open space and recreation plan. With zoning, BRPC assisted North Adams with a comprehensive review and redrafting of its zoning ordinance, and also assisted North Adams adopt a 40R district. BRPC also provided Stockbridge with the regular services of an outsourced planner, one of our staff working on behalf of the town as if they were the town's planner. Technical assistance activities were mostly through the District Local Technical Assistance, or DLTA program, where we worked both with individual communities on a wide range of items such as housing needs assessments and affordable housing planning, but also advanced several important regional initiatives, such as support to the Complete Count Committee, the Berkshire County Education Task Force, the Rest of River Municipal Committee. We also did the initiation of a comprehensive housing strategy for the region and advanced the Economic Development District designation for Berkshire County. It was a busy and productive year for the community planning staff, made much more difficult because most of the work had to be done remotely. And with that, I'm going to turn this over to Marianne Sneezek, manager of the administrative staff. This is the group that really keeps us operational with our many contracts and funding streams.
Good evening. The administrative staff provided overall financial management and supported all programs while supporting the Commission's policy body. Berkshire Regional Planning Commission closed our 2021 year in a strong financial position. Revenue of $5.1 million came from many funding sources. Revenue increased 11% over last year. The Commission managed 122 contracts for the year. The admin team during the past year, while staff worked remotely, continued to file internal controls for all financial activities. All funds were distributed timely to meet the needs in response to the pandemic. Our team provided excellent customer service for the numerous calls, questions, needs from the public during such a difficult time. Many talented new staff were hired to assist with the many new projects awarded. BRPC's 2021 audit has not been completed. Our unaudited financial statements show expenditures are within budget with a surplus in our general operating fund. During the past year, the admin team completed BRPC's 2020 audit with no findings. Our auditor stated Our internal controls were excellent. Our nonprofit entity, Berkshire's Tomorrow, did not need an audit for 2021. For 2020, the staff completed a CBA review due to our revenue exceeding $500,000. Lastly, local assessments from our communities allowed services to be provided. The admin team supported these activities as needed. Now we will go to the next part of our agenda.
Tom, I'll just start unless you have something else to say.
No, and it was my, I'm supposed to give you the segue here. So take it away, Andy.
I'll just take the segue to save time, and we're running late, and this will be even faster. Thanks. I'm Andy Hoagland. I'm the chair of the Williamstown Select Board and the almost not any longer president of the Berkshire County Select Board Association. We had anticipated having elections tonight, but I'm a little bit worried. We are so far short of a quorum, I'd be embarrassed to do that. But just so you know, you should presume that Christine Hoyt, who has agreed to do this, will be taking over as president when we can do a proper election, and that the board of directors currently has agreed to continue, consisting of myself, Pat Carlino of Lee, Jim Lovejoy of Mount Washington, and Mike Case of Washington. For those of you on the phone who want to participate in this gig, the floor is open. Just let us know if you want to be on the board or be an officer, and we can roll you into the agenda next time we're actually able to meet. In terms of a quick report, we've been running a scholarship program for the last several years, including through the pandemic, and thanks to Pat Carlino of Lee, we awarded 3 scholarships this past year of $1,000 each, one to Central, one to South, one to North County, which is our normal process. If we were meeting at a live dinner like we normally do on nights like this, people would be running around selling you raffle tickets, and that's what those raffle tickets are for. So I hope you enjoyed your meal, and thank you for supporting our raffle tonight. In terms of things we've done over the last couple of years, we meet last year, we've had an uptick in an emphasis on advocacy. So we've done a series of commentary letters and advocacy letters on things like the Massachusetts Rail Plan, on the East-West Rail, on the appointment of Tom to Matusko to the Rural Policy Advisory Commission, which was successful, to municipal access to telephone poles, to the establishment of an Office of Rural Policy. In terms of, and on school funding, did a live testimony on that as well. So I'm hopeful that the new leadership of the board will continue to take the opportunities to do some advocacy. One particular issue coming up, which I mentioned earlier in the evening, is later this week, the state auditor, Suzanne Bump, is releasing a report on infrastructure in the Western Massachusetts 4 counties. And this goes through wastewater, sewage, public buildings, emergency response buildings, fire departments, internet, the whole shebang. Documents some of the shortcomings that most here are familiar with, but also proposes some structural changes going forward. So that's due out next week. And I think I'm hopeful it'll be a springboard for a renewed round of advocacy, not just for short-term things like we heard tonight at ARPA, but longer-term, some structural support, because I think it's just been very hard for the rural towns in Massachusetts, statewide, all the way to the Cape, to maintain a loud voice. So I hope that we and the BRPC can take that up as an advocacy opportunity shortly. The other thing we did almost 2 years ago now was to have the first ever Western Massachusetts Summit. This was a day-long, or almost day-long, series of seminars in central Massachusetts where all 4 counties and their regional planning commissions and their select boards that were active co-hosted with the MMA on a series of topics, including things like transportation, regional sharing. There was going to be another one of these summits next week that got canceled for reasons you could probably guess at, but it will be held in April. So I'm hoping that as we are able to emerge from our cocoons and have another live thing that many of you will be able to come to. I think it's going to be in East Hampton. It was the current plan, so we'll see if that holds out. But we had an agenda lined up, speakers lined up, just couldn't, in good conscience, pull it off for this year. So that is the report for tonight. And I'm sorry we can't probably really formalize the election, but thank you, Christine, for being here and being willing to step up. And we'll make it formal as soon as we can. Happy to take questions if there are any, but I know it's late, so up to you.
Well, Andy, I want to thank you for being our fearless leader now for, I can't keep track of how many years you've been doing it, but Andy's done a fabulous job as our president of our association, and I want to thank him very much for his service and hope he will continue to be involved in the board. The Berkshire County Selectmen's Association, Select Board Association, Selectmen's Association, whatever we're calling it these days, is a great organization. I've been involved in it for 20 years now, and I think that it really has an opportunity. It really provides an opportunity for local selectmen to have an impact. So anybody who will help to keep this thing going would be a great. Would be a great help. But I would also want to again thank Andy for his service.
Thank you, much obliged, Jim. And Jim was a past president, so all I did was follow in his footsteps. It's fairly easy, great, a good role model to follow.
Hey, Andy, Barb Hassan, where will that report be available to be viewed when the state auditor puts it out, the infrastructure report that you mentioned?
It's being issued by the state auditor. I assume it will show up on their website. Okay. But I haven't heard, they told me it would be coming out next week, but so I assume they'll be posting it there.
Okay, thank you.
And there is going to be a press release to that, and I can put it in the material for the BRPC meeting coming forward, the link to it. I also want to add my thanks to Andy and the working relationship that we've formed over this last couple of years. I know that Andy has regularly shared, positions of MMA or concerns of the select boards in Berkshire County in terms of our advocacy, and we've jointly advocated for many things, frequently using the same language, and it's a letter, some of the time jointly signed on as one letter. But it's been really good, and I hope moving forward that we can kind of keep that strong collaboration with the select boards. I think it's important. I think, Berkshire County, especially when we look at some of the redistricting scenarios that are facing us, we really need to act with one voice to kind of really keep moving Berkshire County moving forward.
It has been a great collaboration. I'm confident it will continue. And I think, we all recognize that we are kind of thinly staffed out here. So if we can combine voices and make them sound like more than two voices, that's always all for the better. So thank you. And with that, I am done.
Okay. Thank you, Andy. I echo the sentiments, the positive sentiments of the past speakers, and look forward to your work at the state level and supporting Berkshire County.
And we are staying around. Thank you.
All right. In closing, the Berkshire Regional Planning Commission is a very strong commission. It's due to, as Tom has indicated, it's due to the hard, dedicated work of our employees, and to the growth. We're also growing in regards to the amount of grants that we're being awarded, the funding we can provide to the county, and also an increase in employment, which is I've been on for a while, and it's interesting to see that. It's a great thing. So thank you to the employees, to Tom, and to all of you who are members of the BRPC who volunteer their time to be on the executive committee, to be on the commission, and also to support our committees. Without you, we wouldn't be as strong as we are. So thank all of you for joining us this evening. I think it was a very good meeting, and look forward to working with all of you in the upcoming year. Stay safe, stay healthy, and and good night. Thank you.
Yep. Good night, all.
Good night, everyone.
All right.
Good night.